Hello, welcome to episode 58 of Fluffy Fibres, the French podcast in English on sewing, knitting and spinning, a handmade wardrobe from head to toe. Hello friends, and thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Isabelle and I'm coming to you as always from southern France, Montpellier to be exact, and you can find me everywhere as Fluffy Fibres. And you can find the show notes for this podcast on fluffyfibres.com, and you will also find a Ravelry group for the podcast as Fluffy Fibres podcast. So thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome if you're a new viewer, and welcome back. And thank you so much for joining me again if you're a returning viewer. This episode is going to be different from my usual format because this is my post-Edinburgh Yarn Festival episode, and so I feel it's going to be probably pretty long and probably also quite disorganised because I don't really have a plan of how to share everything with you, but I did want to try and record not too far away from the actual event so that everything was fresh in my mind and I could share in the magic with you a little. So it's been an insane week for me getting back from Edinburgh and having so much work, so it's a bit of a feat, to be honest, to be filming today on this very warm sunny spring afternoon here. And actually I'm going to remove my jumper really fast because I'm sweltering in this, but I did want to show this to you first and foremost because this is my Edinburgh sweater, really. You know, people have Rhinebeck sweaters, but we in Europe have Edinburgh sweaters, and I do feel like, I mean, I've never been to Rhinebeck, and I know it's a very different thing because it's outside, it's outdoors, but I do feel it to some extent the Edinburgh Yarn Festival is becoming more and more like the European Rhinebeck in a way. But anyway, yes, so today's episode is simply going to include what I'm having in my cup of tea, a handmade wardrobe, and then I'm just going to share my experience at EYF, and yeah, we'll share of course what I've brought back from EYF, and especially talk a little about the wonderful people that I got to meet there. So without further ado, I'm having a cup of Love Organic Green Earl Grey, which is this, and it's one of my favourite brands of French tea, organic tea, and also one of my absolute favourite blends of tea, Earl Grey on a green tea base. I think it's so fresh and just gives you the nice kick to start your afternoon, you know. And I'm drinking this in my lovely mug that I got at the Christmas market in Montpellier last December, and it's handmade in the region nearby, so it's very special and I really do love it. So without further ado, because I really need to take this off, so I'm complete with my whole Edinburgh outfit here with my, you know, the dress I was wearing there, and even my lanyard pass, so which I just wanted to show you for those of you who weren't attending. So the passes for the podcasters were sponsored by Blacker Yarns, and of course all the podcast lounge was organised by Louise of Knit British. And so, yes, it was very special to be carrying this, and I had my little Fluffy Fibres badge as well here, so people could see me easily, to spot me easily. Also, just like the evening before I left, I considerably shortened my my lanyard because it was way too low on me. I'm very short, as many people have remarked over there in Edinburgh, and so it was very low, so I did shorten it. So the jumper I'm wearing is my Windfell sweater, which I was very happy to finish just in time for the festival. And so this is a design by Jennifer Steingass, who is knit.love.wool on Instagram, and this was published in the first Making Stories book, which was called Words. And yes, it is my first colourwork project, and I just absolutely love it. I knit it out of blacker yarns, Cornish into in Polguth blue for the dark, very dark blue-green, and then for the yoke and the white hair I used some Dererum Natura sport weight, because I felt the Cornish was a thick, was a bit on the thicker side. It's a 4-ply, but I felt the sport weight would go better with it. So, and so their Ulysse range, which is the sports weight, in Lagon for the light blue, and simply the Cell, the undyed, for the white, the Ecru. And I shared last in my previous episode how special this project was for several reasons, because I knit it along with my dear friend Lise, who is Liz Taylor on Instagram and Ravelry, and has a French podcast which is Liz Taylor as well, and she also has a blog which is both in French and in English. So if you don't already follow her, I highly recommend you do, because Liz is incredibly talented and productive and super inspiring. She's inspired me for many years now, and you know, on top of being a really good friend, she's really someone that I do recommend you follow, because she's incredible. So it was super special to knit it with her. The yarn, of course, was super special as well, and it was made even more special because I ran out of yarn, as I was sharing last time, and a kind raveller came to my rescue and very kindly sent me her remaining yarn that she had from this precious limited edition range by Blacker Yarn. And so I checked with her, and she said it was okay to share who she was. So she's Only Dreaming on her Ravelry name is Only Dreaming, and she's called Liz. And so yes, it's even more special now because there's so much kindness in there, you know. So yes, thank you again so much, Liz, for your kindness and for sending it to me so very fast so that I could finish it in time. So yes, I'm going to remove it now because it's so very hot. I think it's 17 degrees this afternoon here, which is, I can't remember in Fahrenheit. I put it on the screen somewhere, but yeah, it's really warm and lovely. And so, yes, and so underneath I'm wearing my Tilly and the Buttons Agnes dress. So the Agnes is usually, it is supposed to be a top, but I added a skirt, a gilded skirt to it to make it a dress. And yeah, so there you go. And I'll probably be sharing more about it in a sewing episode, because I really don't want this episode to last 2 hours. But yeah, it wasn't the I followed a tutorial on Tilly and the Buttons blog actually, but as usual when you're making something specifically for an event, it didn't go smoothly, and yeah, it was quite a challenge to have it to fit me well. And I still think the top, it fits me really well, but the skirt, I think I just put too much fabric in the skirt, and so it's not the most flattering. It's not as flattering as it could be, I think, on me. But that's okay. I still like it very much, and I still think it's cute. It's just not my best production by far. So before I start on EYF, I just wanted to quickly address the change in the background. I do need to film a sewing tour really soon, but yeah, Seb made me these shelves recently, and so so that I could store more things, and especially store some fabrics in my sewing room. And so I've been able to completely reorganize my sewing room, and I'm really happy with it now. And especially with those little shelves just behind me, which have all of my most precious treasures in there. But yeah, I do need to take some time and to give it a final tidy up, and then show you this little room. So yes, I really don't know where to start, honestly, because it was such a whirlwind of emotions and meeting friends and just magic, really. So yes, I'll start with the day I left, actually, which was really lovely because we actually left. I left with a friend from Montpellier, Louise, and hi Louise, and we took the plane together, which was really nice, and we had the beautiful sunrise. We left at 6 in the morning. The plane left at 6, so we left much earlier than that from home, but yeah, the plane took off at 6 and we had this beautiful sunrise over the lagoons and the beautiful southern landscape. It was amazing. And then on our second plane from Paris to Edinburgh, the air hostess remarked on our pullovers, and she asked me that if, you know, she would be really happy to pay me if I would, you know, knit her a colourwork pullover like mine. So Louise tried to explain to her that it would cost her a lot of money, but it was super sweet. She was super sweet, and it just really started things right, you know. So yes, that was really, really fun. So when I arrived, so first of all, I wanted to say I don't have much footage, especially very little filming of the festival, because, well, first of all, I was very caught up in the moment, and secondly, I'm not super comfortable filming people who either are not aware I'm filming or haven't given their consent, and especially not putting it up on YouTube. So yeah, it's very personal, but I'm not comfortable doing this. But you can find loads of footage, of course, and I'm sure you've probably already seen loads of footage on online on other podcasts, and so I'm sure you won't be missing out in this respect. But yeah, so I arrived, it was super, super cold, and there was this gigantic line in front of the Corn Exchange. So we went straight from the airport to the Corn Exchange, and Louise sadly didn't have an advance ticket, so she had to queue, but she told me to go ahead and just go into the building because I had my postcaster pass, and because we arrived at 11:30, so I just had time for a very quick tour of the market before I headed to the podcast lounge for the first podcaster meetup at 12. And I have to confess, so at first I just wanted to just go around incognito without people knowing me, and just, you know, submerging myself in the atmosphere, really. And I have to confess, I was so... I honestly teared up when I arrived, and my emotions were running really, really high. It was such an incredible experience. It's the first kind, I mean, I've been to one yarn festival in France, which is Le Lot et la Laine, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago maybe even now. Yeah, 3 years ago, but it was very different because I am honestly more part of the English-speaking community, and that is a choice of mine, but I really feel like most of my knitting fibery online friends are from the English-speaking community, and so, and also I'm very, very into, you know, British yarn and all the, you know, makers in Britain and also the US, and just entering the marketplace, seeing so many well-known yarns and stalls and people, faces, very, you know, famous people, but also just everything felt so familiar, but in a very magical way, because obviously I'd never seen that. So I guess it's the country of the uncanny. If you know a little bit about Freud, you know, you have this sense of displacement by recognizing something familiar that seemed unfamiliar with the uncanny. And I had the exact opposite feeling, like everything felt so wonderfully familiar, even though I knew it was a completely extraordinary situation. And it really felt like coming home. And you know, many podcasters use the phrase, you know, meeting your tribe, and that was so true. And so yes, I walked around. I honestly had really was tearing up, like literally, and I just looked at all the amazing yarn, and then some people started to approach me and say, "Oh, hello, your fluffy fibres," and to hug me, and it was completely amazing. And yeah, I'm sure you've probably noticed that now that you've seen me, but it was a bit intimidating, very intimidating for me actually. Probably not least because English is not my first language, you know, all that. And also I was so exhausted. I had very, very little sleep throughout the week, last week. And I had to get up, so the previous day was my very, very full day at work, when I have to get up at 5 and work all day. And so I came home in the evening completely exhausted, and then, you know, left the very next morning for EYF at 4. And so I was a bit dazed, to be honest, with exhaustion, but also completely happy. And so thank you so much to the people who started to approach me and hugged me, and I'm very sorry if at first I was a little dazed, but I was so happy to see you. The first person I ran across was Falula, who is Carly. So hi Falula, it was so lovely that she came and talked a little. And then I met Paula of the Snail Garden, and she actually gave me some lovely stitched markers from her Etsy shop. So I have them right here. So she gave me this, which is so pretty. Very, very much colours I love. And so she is Eva Faith on Etsy, so evafaith.etsy.com. And I've been following her on Instagram for quite a while, and so that was really, really special. So thank you very much, Paula, for this. But she didn't want to stay long because she realised that she just arrived and she didn't want to intrude too much, but it was lovely to meet you, Paula. And then yes, actually, I was determined not to get anything, you know, first hand. I just wanted to do a 10. I knew very well what I wanted to get, actually. I had a list. I was so prepared. I should show you my you know, I had a double page in my bullet journal, all prepared, you know, with what I wanted to get for what garment, how many meters, possibly the colour if I'd already had a colour in mind. And of course, you know, I'm very much, you know, I very much knit for my wardrobe, so I very much wanted garment, you know, sweater quantities of stuff, of yarn, of yarn, obviously, of glorious yarn. And of course I was super excited to be seeing all the beautiful British yarn. But I think the exhaustion got the better of me, and so my first purchase was completely frivolous and unplanned for and decadent, and yeah, so let me show it to you, and non-British at all. So this was my first purchase, and so this is I'm just thinking of Lise at the moment, who's watching this and who must be laughing so hard. But this is from La Fefile, who is a very well-known French hand dyer, and I actually was very excited that she'd be there because I'd never met her, I'd never seen her yarn in person. She dyes beautiful colourways, very fresh, very colourful, and Nadia Crétin-Lechen just published a shawl which uses this gradient, and I really fell in love with the shawl to start with. I think she published it probably the day of the opening of the Yarn Festival or the day before, but so she collaborated with La Fefile around this, and so yes, so this is for a shawl. It's a gradient, it's merino, not, you know, local wool. And it's French, which is completely ridiculous, right? I go all the way from France to Edinburgh to buy French yarn. But, you know, it's just my frivolous purchase of the EYF, and I think we're all supposed to, or at least we all tend to do this kind of thing, right? At the Yarn Festival, to just lose our head a little, and I think it's all part of the fun. So Cecile, who is the dyer behind Leffyfield, was super sweet, and she knew me from my friend Lise actually, so she knew, oh, but you're fluffy fibers. And yeah, I've admired her colourways for a long time, so I just felt, yes, if I want to get back into shawl knitting, which I will, this is going to be a wonderful, wonderful skein, precious skein to have in my stash. So yes, rest assured the rest of my purchases was a lot more considerate and thoughtful. But I just love this so very much. It's really, really gorgeous. And so after that, still at the market, I met Patricia, my friend Patricia, who is from Norway, P4Chen, whom I hope you all know because she's an amazing knitter and maker who is reviving knitting traditions in Norway and contributing to sharing them to the world, really. And she is very passionate about that. And so it was wonderful to see her. She's so gorgeous and so warm, and so I was so happy to meet her. And then I went, and then we obviously met several times during the course of the festival, because she was already a very good friend. And yeah, so later on she told me she'd knit something for my daughter, which was super sweet. And so she had made these mittens for my daughter, who loves blue, so it was very thoughtful, and they are absolutely gorgeous, like everything Patricia does, really. So look at all this detail. And so it's the first time I could really see a Norwegian mitten, you know, for real, and it is completely amazing. So my daughter was so excited about these. She can't wait to wear them. So thank you so very much, Patricia. It's super special. And she also super thoughtfully gave me 2 balls of this beautiful Norwegian yarn that she uses to knit her mittens. And she tried to find the same colour as my coat, my blue coat, that I did wear to Edinburgh and was very happy to have because it was so very cold over there. And she was spot on. This is the exact same shade as my coat, my royal blue coat. And so now I can knit myself a pair of mittens with these, and it's going to be so special to make. So that was such a thoughtful gift, and thank you so very much, Patricia. That really was such a treasure. So after that I went to the podcast lounge, and the first lady I met over there was my very dear friend Erin, who is Mama to Abigail on Instagram and has the Holland Handmade YouTube podcast and the Holland Handmade Etsy shop as well. And we really literally stumbled upon one another, which was crazy because we were both very much excited to be meeting one another. And she is so beautiful, and we clicked like this from the second we met, the very first second we met. We just were so at ease with one another, and she was completely wonderful through the whole time, and we spent a lot of time together. And it was really sad to leave one another, actually, but also now we have this beautiful gift of each other's friendship as well, and the conversation is just going to go on, really. So that was completely amazing. And so she also came bearing gifts, which she was so generous about. So first of all, she told me that she had brought me some books for my daughter, and that's not the first time she's done that. She's several times in the past she's sent me books that she's found at in second-hand bookshops of children's literature that was very important to her. And that is super special for me because whilst I'm very passionate about adult literature, by which I mean just, you know, classical literature and contemporary literature as well, because I didn't grow up in an English-speaking country, I am not familiar with what, you know, with children's literature and what was good and what was good when we were young and also what is good now, and that is this kind of thing that is quite difficult to know for yourself when you're not in the country, when you're not a native speaker, when you haven't had this experience for yourself really as a child. And so her selecting and giving me, you know, in the past and also now, books that were very important to her childhood and to her own daughter's childhood as well, that is really special to me. And also the fact that they are second-hand is just, to me, it's also really wonderful, because it means that they're just given a second life, and there's so much soul to second-hand books, isn't there? And so this time she wanted to bring them to me so that she didn't have to pay for postage, because postage is super high, of course, as you probably know, overseas. And so she gave me so many of these books, which we've already very happily gone through, and we're going through every single night. If you want to see a little peek at this, I've been posting stories lately of my reading to my daughter these books. So, and my daughter is getting really, really excited about learning English, which makes me so happy, especially because I've told her when she knows English sufficiently well, she will be coming with me to these festivals, because she's also super into sewing and knitting, and so that is a very big enticement for her to learn English. And so yes, it's also she really is at that age when she's super eager to learn and to absorb everything, you know. And so on top of that, Erin had another gift for her, which was this beautiful crocheted shawl, which is so pretty, and my daughter loves very much as well. She's already started to wear it to school. It's beautiful. I do remember when Erin crocheted this and showed it on her podcast a few years ago for her own daughter. So that is so precious. She knit this for her daughter and she passed it on to my daughter. And my daughter was super excited to see it was sparkly, and so she asked me why I never had sparkly yarn, and yeah, so she was very, very taken with the sparkles. It's the golden spitstellina, so it's super soft. This is fondant fibre yarn actually. So yes, it's gone full circle, I guess, from the UK to Erin in Michigan and back to Europe now, to me, to my daughter. So yes, so thank you so much, Erin. And as if that wasn't enough, Erin recently started dyeing yarn again. So she'd done dyeing yarn in the past as a business, you know, quite a few years ago, I think now. But she had her own shop, brick and mortar shop in Michigan, and she started dyeing yarn again. And I do recommend you, if you don't know Erin yet, you take a look at her Instagram feed and her Etsy shop, because she has an incredible colour sense. And you can really see that she's not a beginner at this. She's been doing this for a very long time, and she has a very stable colour sense, if you want, colour palette. By which I mean she's still experimenting with colours, but yeah, she really knows what she's doing. And so she had prepared a super generous package of yarn for me and for you. So 2 whole skeins of yarn, and then 2 packs of minis. So there's one half for me, which is wonderful, and one half for you. So this is one of her gorgeous skeins. So a really truly beautiful tonal mauve. So I'm going to show it to you closer. I hope this focuses well. So here is her beautiful card. She made such an amazing job with these cards, I think. So I hope you will see this properly. I'm not sure how well it will focus, but her card is amazingly beautiful and very, very hairy as well, and very, very much in keeping with her whole aesthetic, I feel. So yes, so this is 80/20 superwash merino nylon, and it is a very generous 115 grams, which makes for 414 yards. So I would guess about 400 meters, I guess. And so this is a one-of-a-kind tonal, which is really gorgeous. She has just before she left for Edinburgh, she came up with a whole collection of beautiful tonals, like smoky tonals like that, you know, that really have some depth to them. And then she gave me this beautiful variegated skein of BFL. And so here it is, so beautiful. So it's all blues and greens, really, really lovely, with a bit of pink speckles as well. So pretty. So yes, so one of these is going to be for you. I haven't decided yet, really, to be honest, but which one, but yes, so be on the lookout for this. Well, let me talk about this now, actually. So I just reached, which was really funny, because on the same week that I was at the festival, or just, I think the day I came back from the festival, I reached 5,000 followers on Instagram. And also I just checked my YouTube channel, and I'm also over 5,000 followers on YouTube, which is truly humbling, and it's a bit crazy to me, especially as I used to have a private account on Instagram until this summer, and up until August I think I had a private account on Instagram, because I just wanted to know who was following me, and then I just realised it was making sense because I already had quite a number of followers, and also I just wanted people not to be intimidated, and yeah, to share, really, you know, to share what I was up to, which is of course the whole point of this podcast. So yes, but yeah, so that was incredible, and thank you so very much to all of you who subscribe, who follow me on Instagram, who support me, who are so very kind, and yeah, I'll be devoting a mini-sode to this, actually. So my next episode is going to be on this, and on having a giveaway for you, and this is definitely going to be part of the giveaway, of course, which is going to be wonderful. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to have a little Q&A for this special episode, because I've never done that. So yeah, I'll probably post something on Instagram, a post on Instagram with a Q&A where you could ask questions, yeah, that was incredible for me, and it was quite apt that it was at the same time as the festival, really, that this happened. But so Erin also gave me 2 sets of minis, which are here, which are super pretty. And so she packed this one specifically for my blanket, because she knows I'm doing a you know, a blanket, a crochet blanket, a granny stripe blanket inspired by a spring meadow. So these colours are going to be absolutely perfect for this. And then she packed this set of, again, tonal pinks and mauves, which are so pretty and very subtle, and yeah, so that will be part of the giveaway as well. I will actually be offering several prizes in my giveaway, so you know, one of the skeins will be a prize, this will be a prize, and I will be adding things of my own as well. So, but I will be talking about this in a later episode, when I have, you know, put my ducks in a row and have time to think about all of it, and the format I want this to take, really. So besides meeting Erin, I started to meet everyone at the podcast lounge, and I have to confess, I myself was intimidated by some of the podcasters over there, especially Andrea and Andrew of the Fruity Knitting podcast, who I very much admire, and so I will confess to you, because some friends have reached out to me on Instagram later and told me they didn't approach me because they were too intimidated, which I felt was like what I really regret, and I just don't understand how I can be intimidating to people, because if you've met me in Edinburgh now, you really know that I'm not joking when I say I'm really short and small. And actually the recurring phrase of this weekend was, "You're so tiny," when meeting me. So yes, but anyway, I do understand though, because I was the same, and I felt ridiculous. I was one of the podcasters. I was here to create conversations, connect, and I myself had a hard time approaching some of the podcasters I really admired. So I understand and I empathise. I did end up approaching Andrea the second day, so I needed a whole day to work up the courage to see her, to go and meet her. And she was wonderful. We really had a good chat actually on sewing, and yeah, and so I was able to tell her how much I appreciate the Fushi Knitting podcast, and she was wearing her amazing Henry VIII colourwork sweater by Alice Darmore, and I was really excited to get to see it in person. And yeah, she it's just amazing how everyone that you know from online, I'm looking at because there's a plane flying right there and it's coming home, it's coming to Montpellier, and it's taking the exact same route I took to come home. The funny thing is, actually, as I was coming home from Paris after Edinburgh, I could actually see my home. That was insane because we're so close. I mean, we're not close to the airport, but the plane really gets close to Montpellier when it gets here, and I was able to see all the neighbourhood I knew and my actual home, which was crazy. So yeah, I'm smiling because people on the plane were maybe seeing a tiny little person filming something here. No, I don't think they did really, but yeah, Andrea was really lovely. And yes, what I wanted to say is it was, I think the common feature of meeting all these amazing people was that they are just even more wonderful and amazing in person. And, you know, sometimes you just can't think that is possible, but it is. And it was incredible, really an incredible experience. And so to anyone who met me on the first day, especially on the Friday, I wasn't super well in the afternoon, and so if I appeared like I was a little dazed or out of it or exhausted, or if I was actually sitting down, that was why. I wasn't trying to be non-social, but I just had to take it easy, and for a little while I really wasn't super well. But so I do apologise, and if you approached me at that time and it wasn't super expansive, it was a bit much for me, to be honest. But not the meeting friends, but the trip and the being exhausted bit, really. And also I really must apologise because I think the first 3 hours really I was there, I didn't even think of handing out my badges. So I made badges for the festival, especially for the festival, with my little logo that I recently drew and painted with watercolours. So I made little cards and my little button, and at the beginning I just completely didn't think of handing them out. And so if you saw me and we chatted and I didn't think of giving you one, feel free to message me on Ravelry and give me your address so I can send it to you, okay? Because I really felt really silly and bad about that. So yes, on the first day I also met Katie of the Number 23 podcast, who was so incredibly lovely. Oh my goodness. And I really do enjoy her podcast very much, especially as she both sews and knits, and I think she's always very articulate about what she's making, also very thoughtful about what she's making, and super inspiring. But also, yeah, also there is a real depth to her podcast. And she was so incredibly kind and lovely in person. I couldn't believe it. And yeah, especially her. I was really, when I met her, I was really not super well, and so I really regret I didn't get to spend more time with her. So Katie, I'm so sorry. I really hope we get to meet some other time in, you know, better circumstances if you're watching. But yeah, that was really a bummer. I also met Maria of the Ninja Chicken podcast, who was so lovely, and she also came bearing gifts. So if you don't know Maria, she does eco-dyeing, so she dyes with plants yarn, but also she does these wonderful eco prints, and she especially does them on sock blanks, and they create amazing beautiful sock blanks because you have the print of flowers and leaves, and it gives the most beautiful colours as well. So she is really amazing, and so she was so generous and she gave me a skein of her plant dyed yarn, which is so special. And so this is dyed with madder, and it actually has the name of the sheep, and it's out of the fleece from Calendula the Montedale sheep, which is so super special. So Maria also gave me her beautiful pen, which is super cute, her enamel pen. So hopefully you can see that properly. Yeah, so she was really fun, and she'd come all the way from North Carolina, which again is amazing, just like Erin, who came from Michigan, or Kristen, of course, who came from New York. But yeah, that was super pretty. And she also gave me a couple of cards that she eco-printed. So here is the first one, and this should give you an idea of what she does with her sock blanks if you haven't seen her before. So it's super pretty and super special. And then the second one is this one, which is also very pretty. So yes, so she has a website which is ninjachickens.org. She has a podcast which is Ninja Chickens, and she's Ninja Chickens on Instagram. And so I'm also going to offer one of these in the giveaway that I'm planning. So do stay tuned for this in a further episode, a later episode. I was also super happy in terms of the eco-minded makers to meet Sarah of Fibertrack, who is gorgeous, and I was so happy to meet her. She is so inspiring. And also, of course, Meg of Mrs. M's Curiosity Cabinet. We had several good little chats with Meg, which was really lovely, and we really see eye to eye when it comes to sustainable living, although I feel she's more committed than me at that point, but she is super inspiring. And we were also chatting about something that I think it's quite important to say, and hopefully I will say it again in further episodes, but when we try and make sustainable choices, we're not necessarily giving judgment on anyone else. It's just our efforts to do things more ecologically. We're not trying to get on a soapbox, really. And that was really, yeah, we really were in so much agreement about so many things, really. And she was really super wonderful to talk to, and I just have a huge regret because I don't have a picture of her, and I actually, which again is silly, and I'm sure she's gonna, Meg, if you're watching, I'm sure you're going to laugh at that, but I actually was intimidated to ask you to do a picture with me, and so now of course I'm bitterly regretting it, but it just means we'll have to get together another time. So yeah, I also met Claire of the New Hampshire Knits podcast, who also is an amazing maker, and of course she is the owner of the Woolly Thistle shop in the US that brings UK yarn to the US, because she is originally from the UK, and yeah, that was also really lovely to meet her. And I also met Magdalena, who has the Wolf and Schäfer podcast, and she actually gave me a mini, which is this one. So super pretty. She let me choose one of her minis. It's super soft. It's going to be perfect in my blanket. So it's super pretty with spring colours. It's going to be perfect for my blanket, and super soft as well. So it is called Moon Vigilia. Really pretty, and my friend Erin picked the same one as mine, so we're going to have matching minis, so that's really lovely. We did spend a bit of time talking on knitting together on the second day especially, and that was super sweet. also Emilia of Arctic Knitting. We were a small bench at one point together, and it was really, really fun. That was really lovely. I also met Selma, who is Selma Knits, and she has the Selma English and French podcast. She does both podcasts. So hi Selma, we spent a lot of time together. We really hit it off, so that was super lovely. So yeah, and I also met Zina of Little Yellow Uke. We met on the Saturday morning, and we were super excited to be meeting one another. And again, that's one of these connections that was instant. She's so gorgeous, oh my goodness. And also, she wasn't really tall either. She just felt like we could have been sisters, really. And she was so lovely, oh my goodness. Super lovely as well. I was super excited to meet her. Another UK podcaster I met was Lee of the Luli podcast, and she has the Luli Instagram account as well, who was also super warm and fun, and I actually have the best picture of her using yarn as some sort of a fascinator and or fancy hat. That was really, really quite fun, and it's just amazing how familiar we all were with one another, even though we'd technically never met. We're just like friends reconnecting, and that had known each other for a long time. That was really amazing. And so I'm just beating around the bush as to one of the very most important people I met there, who is of course Christine of the Yarngasm podcast, and who has the Woolenvine yarn shop. And Christine is actually one of the reasons that just triggered me to embark on this adventure, on this EYF adventure. We were, I think I was mentioning it on my podcast, and then she told me, oh my goodness, if you're going, I'm going. And that's pretty much how we both decided to go to the festival. So she played a huge part in my going to Edinburgh. And so meeting her was, she is so incredibly wonderful, and she is super gorgeous to start with. So I'm sure you all are aware how gorgeous she is through her podcast and her Instagram feed, and she is even more beautiful in person. So yes, she is so gorgeous. And also what I was really struck by was how really sweet she was, how very warm and super kind she was, and we've been friends for a long time. I started listening to her podcast at the very beginning when it was an audio podcast, and we've been connecting online for years, literally years. I'm thinking about as long as my daughter was born, I'm thinking, or around that time, at least 5 years, I want to say. So I've seen her move from audio to video. I've seen her open her hand-dyed yarn shop and flourishing in everything she does, and still she remains this very down-to-earth, kind, warm, incredible person. And yes, I know this was just the first of many encounters that we'll have. I'm absolutely certain of it, but it was really amazing and wonderful to finally be meeting her. Despite the distance, despite the ocean that lies between us, really, it was just a dream come true. So yes, and Christine is maybe planning a trip to France, so we're actually very I'm very hopeful I may meet her sometime soon, which is amazing. So we both felt, I think, that this was just a beginning, and we needed some downtime on our own some other day, really. But yeah, Christine, it was incredible to meet you. My goodness. And Christine also gave me a gorgeous skein of her yarn, which, oh my goodness, it's so pretty. Look at that. It is so incredibly pretty. And it is a one-of-a-kind, which is called macaron, which is perfect, right? And yeah, that is going to have a very special place in my stash. It's got speckles, and it's got a very light mauve smoky lilac or mauve, dusky mauve base, and oh my goodness, it's gorgeous. Thank you so much, Kristen. I just love it so much. Thank you. It's a wonderful souvenir from our meeting, really. So yes, I met also Helen of the Curious Handmade podcast, whom I also feel like I've known forever, and we were super like familiar with one another, and she I really love Helen, and again she is someone I've known for many years, and I've also seen grown into this amazingly talented, successful designer, and again still she remains super approachable and sweet and warm, and also I just wanted to thank her because she is so generous in mentioning other podcasters on her podcast, and she's mentioned me lately a couple of times actually. She's mentioned me about the, you know, Make 9 project in January, and then she mentioned me again just before she went to the festival, because, you know, she just mentioned I was coming as well, and that was so very kind. She always has so many kind things to say about fellow podcasters, fellow makers, and so Helen, thank you, and it was wonderful to see you at last. Yeah, so who else did I meet before I move on to all my purchases? Oh yes, the lovely Lina, who is in Finland, Lina Knits, and she's recently, well, 1 year ago she started designing as well. We've known each other for a while, and we had a lovely time, especially the Saturday morning we went through the wool exploration table. So the amazing Louise, whom I haven't even mentioned yet because my head is everywhere, is all over the place, but the amazing Louise of Knit British, who organised all this and who is incredible and so fun, and Louise, thank you so much for everything you do, not only the podcast lounge, which was wonderful, but also your podcast and all the work you've done over the years, spreading the love on British wool and more, you know, widely speaking, local wool, and raising our awareness about this. Thank you so much, Louise, and I had such a lovely time talking to you, and yes. So Louise had put together a table of wool exploration, and you had on that table, you had a little chest of drawers, tiny little drawers with, inside each drawer you had a bit of fibre and a knitted swatch, or several actually, and then you had a card with on one side the picture of the sheep, and on the other side the name of the sheep and the breed, and you know, its history, whether it was endangered or not. And so it was a little game, you know, to try and guess the breed, and so Lina and I went through the whole drawers and we had a lot of fun. And so next to that you had a board where you could put sticker notes with your favourite breed of sheep, and I just couldn't decide, so I ended up writing all the wool with hearts instead of the O's. So Louise, if you're wondering who did that, that was me. But yeah, it was really fun, and really interesting as well to be able to feel the wool, and, you know, in the fibre form, and then knit it as a swatch, and so yeah, that was really lovely. So I hope I'm not forgetting too many people. I did meet also wonderful, super kind podcast viewers. Irene, who is always so very kind to me on Instagram and in Ravelry. So Irene, thank you so much. And Irene gave us a book of Bramley Hedge, The Spring Story from Bramley Hedge, which is so precious and special. So thank you so much, Irene. We love it. We really do love it. Thank you very much. I also met Helen, or Helene, who is Helena Knits on Instagram, and whom also I've known for quite a while. And she approached me with her husband to talk to me about my daughter's little hand-sewn top that she made recently. And actually so many people came to me to tell me about that. It really made my day. My daughter, if you follow me on Instagram, my daughter got a sewing machine for her birthday, her 6th birthday in February. And she also got a couple of sewing books to go with it, with children's project. And so we went through them, and the only thing she wanted from these books were the very few garment projects at the very end of the books, which of course weren't the easiest project, but she was adamant that was what she wanted to do, because she told me, I want to make lovely clothes like you, Mummy. So we made, we had a lot of snow a couple of weeks ago, and so there was an actual snow day where everything was closed down, and so we all stayed home, and I thought that was the perfect opportunity to open up her, you know, to start up her sewing machine and teach her. And so we started to make this top, which I will obviously be inserting a picture, but it's a top with bias binding for the straps and the finishing, and it's a little tank top that she's going to get loads of wear out of in the spring and the summer over a long sleeved or a short sleeve t-shirt. And she picked the fabric from my stash and everything, and so many people, so I posted a picture on Instagram and many people commented on that to start with, which was wonderful. And many people approached me at the festival to actually tell me about my daughter, which just was so wonderful. Yeah, Helene and her husband told me about that, which, you know, yeah, it was amazing. But yeah, my daughter did sew it on her own. I just helped her feed the fabric through the machine, but she was the one sewing, having her foot on the pedal, so pinning everything, cutting out everything, and I'm very, very proud of her. I also made Kate, Hearth and Craft Cottage, of course, who is super fun and super warm, and she gave me a little badge of her own with a little stitch marker as well. So hopefully you can see that properly, but it's super cute, and that was really, really lovely as well. I also met, of course, my good friend Katrina, who is Nelly Knits. Hi Katrina. And Katrina was with Sharon, who is Stitch Mistress on Ravelry on Instagram, and she has the Knit Style yarns now as well. She has a yarn dyeing company in the US. She also came from all the way from the US, and she gave me those scrumptious minis. Very, very vibrant yarns, super pretty. So thank you very much, Sharon. Thank you so much, and it was lovely to see you and to meet you. And yeah, I know I'm forgetting friends. Also Wendy, who is Pink Pecking, gave me buttons which were so pretty. Oh my goodness, I need to show you them. So here they are. Oh, no, I'm not going to see anything. I'll be inserting a picture, but she gave me these beautiful buttons printed with little fir cones or fir trees, which are super pretty. They're going to be perfect on, you know, for hand knits for my children. So thank you very, very much, Wendy. Another lovely person I met, and also that I instantly was very familiar with, was Theresa, or Tracy, of the Schnuffeltier podcast. And no, she's Schnuffeltier on Instagram, and she has the Passionate Spinner podcast. She's in Germany, and we've connected for several years. She has a little boy, and who is, I think, he's just between my daughter and my son, really, in terms of age. And she spins a lot. She's incredibly prolific. She also sews a lot. She also makes her wardrobe, really. And she was super fun and super warm, and we were also very familiar with one another from the very second we met. And she gave me this super cute, wonderful little, handy little little box with, so let me show you, with post-it notes over there, and a little pen and a little notebook with detachable sheets of paper. So super cute, super handy, and she's got her really very nifty logo here. And again, I hope this is showing up on camera. I'm getting really frustrated that my camera doesn't have autofocus. But maybe one day when I've saved enough, you know, not now, obviously. I may actually exchange it for one with autofocus. We'll see. It won't happen soon though. So yes, I know I'm forgetting many people, and I also saw many friends, you know, just said hi quickly, but I think we were all really thrilled to be seeing one another. So yes, but really the one recurring phrase throughout the weekend was, of people meeting me for the first time, was, "You're so tiny!" Which I'm completely okay with. I'm used to being tiny and to being considered tiny, but yeah, apparently people weren't quite expecting, you know, that, to what extent I was really, you know, very small. Other podcasters I met who were also wonderful were Nathan Nathan Taylor of the Sock Magician podcast, who again was super approachable and you know, did take time to chat with people, and he was definitely one of the people I was very intimidated to meet. Hannah Lisa, who is behind the Making Stories book actually, and who was super lovely, and she was super lovely as well. And I wanted to keep this for last because that was excellent, but Helen of the Curious Handmade podcast told me, "Oh, there's Jessica over there. Do you want me to introduce you to her?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" I had no idea who Jessica was. So I said, "Yeah, of course, sure." And so we went over to Jessica, and I then realised that Jessica was, you know, Jessie, the founder of Ravelry, which I probably wouldn't have even dared to approach her if I'd known who she was. And she was incredibly amazing and super sweet and warm, and I know I'm saying this of a lot of people, but that was so very true, you know. And she, oh my goodness, she was really lovely, and she actually told me she'd watched my podcast, which that just completely made my day. Like, Jessica of Ravelry, founding Ravelry, actually watched my podcast and was inspired by my sewing, especially. So yes, that was huge. And Jessica, if you're watching by any chance, but you probably won't have time because you're just returning to the US, I think, at the moment. But it was amazing meeting you, and you're incredible. And thank you so much for everything you're doing for us, really. But yeah, that was insane. That was an insane moment. Okay, now I'm going to move on to what I got at the festival, apart from my crazy Laffy fil patches.